Welcome back to another RC video. There is a topic that I want to talk about, and it's shelf queens. Shelf queens, yes, you guys. How long does your RCs stay on the shelf before they're deemed shelf queens? I think there's a lot of different reasons. Some people can, have different views on that, and I really want to explain why people have their RCs on shelves longer than others, and there can be a lot of different reasons. I want to go over that. So the first reason is now I'm guilty of this. Maybe you bought a brand new car and you just never ran it. You forgot about it, was on the shelf, and you just never got to it, lost interest, and didn't even touch it. I've done that before. So another reason, you bought a brand new car because it is a limited edition. Now I just did that maybe a month ago. I bought a couple, actually I bought 4 Ultimates from Traxxas. The X-Max, the XRT, the Slash, and the Rustler. And they just sit there on the shelf because, they're supposedly limited editions, even though they've been out for years. But they're still kind of, they're pricey. So, they have all the goodies on them. Like, I have other X-Maxes, other XRTs. So I'll probably never touch them. They're just shelf queens. So that's another reason. Brand new, limited edition RC cars that people never touch. And they just stay on their shelves. So that could be a shelf queen for a lot of people. Maybe you bought one used and you only ran it a few times, and you don't run it often. I mean, a lot of people say, no, that's not a shelf queen because it's been used. I run it every now and then. It's not a shelf queen. But how long does it really take to be sitting on the shelf for it to be a shelf queen? I mean, really. I mean, I think if you only ran it once a month, it could be a shelf queen. Some people may view that. And, you could buy a used one and just lose interest, and it just sits on the shelf. So that could be a shelf queen. Now I think that could be. I mean, if it sits on the shelf for more than a month and it's just sitting there and you only ran it maybe 3 times a year, that could be a shelf queen. I think if you run it once every couple weeks, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a shelf queen. If you bought a used or new RC car and you ran it a little bit, but then you upgraded it, and then all of a sudden it's your pride and joy, now it's just sitting because now you don't want to run it because you don't want to mess it up. So that could be a shelf queen, I guess, too. I guess it all depends how much you run the car. I think that's probably where I'm getting at. But there is one thing that I really consider a shelf queen, and that's if you've bought a car new or used, preferably used. You've ran it for years and took care of it, but then you decide you want to retire that RC car, right? And you just don't want to run it no more, and you just let it sit, and that's all you're gonna do. You're just gonna leave it sit on the shelf, and you're done. It's just your pride and joy for all those years, and you're done playing with it. Maybe you got older, you lost interest, but you still love that car, and you just want to let it sit there and look pretty. That's a shelf queen to me. So, maybe you love a car so much that you run it, but you like to keep your stuff clean, but you don't want to run it too much because you don't want to get it dirty. Now, you guys, I am guilty of that. There's cars that I don't like to run that much because I don't want to get them messed up, dirty, broke, whatever. That's another thing. There's just some cars that I love, and I'll run them, but I just don't like to get them dirty too much. I don't want to even break them for some reason. I know parts can be replaced, but just sometimes you have a love for a certain RC car, and you just don't play with it that much. You just rather look at it on the shelf. So There's one big thing that I'm really guilty of, and that's I have a few RC cars that are discontinued, and I will not even touch them. I will not run them. I've either bought them new and I just leave them sitting on the shelf because they're discontinued. You can't get parts for them, and you don't want to break it because then you're gonna have trouble fixing it. And plus, your favorite RC car that's discontinued, you do not want to get dirty. And like I said before, you don't want to break it. So I'm very guilty of that. I have RC cars that are discontinued and rare, and they're shelf queens, really shelf queens. So as you can see, there's a lot of different reasons why your RC car could be a shelf queen. I have some of those. I admit that, you guys. But a lot of people view shelf queens in a different way. Like the way I view a shelf queen RC car is if it's sitting on the shelf for 2 or 3 months at a time without being ran. Say you run the RC car 3 times a year, maybe 4. I consider that a shelf queen. Or you don't run it at all. So that's a shelf queen to me. If you're running it every 4 to 6 weeks, it's not a shelf queen, you guys. Not to me. That's my opinion. I want you guys to comment down below and let me know what your opinion is on a shelf queen. How do you describe a shelf queen RC car? There's actually another term that I use. I use shelf kings. I would say half my cars are shelf kings. Now, what I mean by that is I run them more than the other ones. So a shelf king to me is my favorite RC cars that I like to run the most, and they're not sitting that much. I might run one every week and a half or 2. I just like running it a lot, more often than the others. So I call them shelf kings, you guys, because they're just kings. They're my favorite RCs. I love to run them, and they're not sitting on the shelf. So that's it. Hey, let me know what you think down below on this topic. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell. And hey, there's nothing wrong with just letting your RC sit. And you guys bought them. You can do what you want, or just go out and run them. But that's it, you guys. We'll see you on the next one.